On behalf of the people of this Kona, a hot land, a warm land, we welcome each of you this evening, and here specifically through the County Council chambers this evening that we get to share together in our manao, learn from you folks of what's happening on Mauna Kea, and we welcome you folks graciously into this haleo.
Mahalo.
Hi, Belina Mekialoha. I'd like to ask Chair Kumeiji to please say a few words on behalf of the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority.
Aloha. I wanted to welcome and thank all of you for coming and spending your valuable time. One of the things we realized where we got where we are was because we lack communication in the community. So part of our vision and part of what we're trying to do is come out to the community and seek your input. We're going around the island next week. Next week we'll be in La Hawaii doing the same thing. But part of what we're trying to do is provide a safe platform so people can have these important conversations. We can learn from all of you about what you believe our path should be. So thank you again for spending your valuable time. And really, you don't realize it yet, but we're going to put you guys to work and ask and really learn from each and every one of you about where you think we should be going. So mahalo.
Mahalo, Chair. At this time, I'd like to ask Mayor Alameda to just say aloha to everyone and to also share his role on the authority.
Oh, aloha, thank you. Aloha. Aloha. Yeah, thank you. Wow, what a privilege and honor to be here on the Kona side, the west side. So, no, yeah, it's an honor and a privilege to be on the authority. You know, as soon as I got elected, I was like, that's the authority I like to be on. I like Shema Mana'o, I like Kerala Mana'o, and we have a really good, very diverse board. You know, from all different perspectives, we learn from each other. In Illinois, Anakila, you know, the Burmans. I mean, so, you know, it's perspective. And that's kind of what we like, right? It's like a good feel for what people are feeling, thinking about the Mauna. And so my role is just to be a participant. Although you might see my other role as mayor, very opinionated, okay? That's my job, that's what I got elected for. But when it comes to the authority, we all have opinions. And you know, when I speak outside as a mayor, I'm not speaking for the authority. You know, but when I'm on the authority, we speak as a group. And we're really good, and we all get along. And that's awesome. So thank you for that. We'll have a good fun talk story tonight. Puka puka. And I'll turn it back over to my mahalo.
Mahalo. So, Mayor already mentioned some of the other authority members that are with us in spirit and in mind. However, they were unable to join us today. I'm going to go back actually to the slide prior, photography. So I want to let folks know that we have a staff member here. Please raise your hand. And he is taking pictures to assist with documenting and to post, you know, what we are up to, what the authority is up to, and what residents are doing to help inform this process, to help shape this process on behalf of Kona people. So just if there's anyone who does not want their pictures taken, please go ahead and see him in the back, and he will make sure that he does not take a picture of you, and he will not show up. So please, yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned this right at the outset. For I have called to find out about the meeting, and I'm glad to hear you are announcing what you are doing, because this is the first time we are convening after debates being on the Mauna. This is the first time you are hearing from the people. As far as I'm concerned, this should be 2 hours to dedicate how to go into every parlor of every person who was on the Mauna at that very historic time. So I appreciate knowing that you are calling these meetings substantive for support of your planning. That's not true. This is your first interface with the people of Hawaii Island since that time. And you will hear from us.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you. Also, just to clarify,
Does your hand go up because you don't want your photograph taken?
I just want to know more about your meeting tonight.
you got it. Thank you.
And, you know, things are enough clandestine, censored, obstructive, enough of this. Let us speak right away. I'm the first person who signed up on this list. I would like to go forward.
Mahalo. Mahalo. Actually, we're going to try and get through the 20 more minutes of talking, and then the rest of the time is yours. So yes, mahalo. I appreciate your manaho. Okay, so if you do not want your photography taken, because it will show up on the Mauna Kea Stewardship Authority website, which is housed on DLNR, please go see the gentleman in green in the back, and no problem, he will not do that. Yeah, so I'm Mahina Paishan. Thanks to all of you for making the time and the effort to be here. I live up O'oma, just a few minutes away, North Kona, and I'm very happy to be able to serve all of you fellow community members, residents, Kupa and Kama'aina, toward our shared objective to love and Malamaina Wakea. Next. Okay, so this is the part where I get to introduce who's in the room and who's also not in the room in terms of authority members who serve in a volunteer capacity, as well as staff. Next. Okay, so when I call upon your name, just go ahead and either stand or raise your hand, please, to acknowledge who you are. Chair John Kumeji, Chair of the Authority. First Vice Chair, I call her Dr. Auntie. Dr. Auntie Noi Noi, Wong Wilson. She sends her regrets. She wanted to be here, but she just got off the plane a few hours ago from Aotearoa, and so didn't feel like she had the energy to drive all the way from Hilo to Kona to join us. So she sends her love and her regrets. Rich Matsuda.
I'm here.
Mahalo, Second Vice Chair. We heard from Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Pumai Bertelman, who also sends her regrets. She's going to join us online today. Pu'ukapu from Pu'ukapu and Ka'u. Mr. Neil Hannes. Mr. Paul Horner, who is not with us today. Chancellor Irwin. Deputy Director Ryan Kanakaole, whose ohana also comes from Ka'u and Puna, is not with us today. Dr. Kalehua Krug, who is not with us today, and Regent Benjamin Kudo, as well as Lenakila Mamwa. He also sends his regrets and his aloha to everyone. He wanted to make it, but he's teaching keiki classes somewhere in Hamakua. So these are your authority, Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority members. They'll share a little bit more in terms of how they were nominated and appointed to sit on this authority. I'm going to ask Chair, could you just elaborate?
Thank you. Part of the beauty of what was created was that the legislature identified certain types of people to get a diverse opinions presented at the board table or at the authority table. So what we have is people that are cultural practitioners that are lineal descendants. We have governmental officials that are very important in here. The mayor, of course, we have someone from DLNR, we have someone from UH, we have an educator. You can see the titles. We have someone that is versed in land management and water. We also have people that were appointed either by the Senate President or the Speaker of the House. But the whole point is that the legislature, when they created the Mauna Kea Authority, they wanted to ensure that we had diverse opinions representing all aspects of the community so that we could have that discussion at the authority level so we could move forward as a group. One special shout out I wanted to give is to Doug Adams, who was a board, was an authority member from the initial and helped us kind of put together the building blocks to help us get to where we are. So thank you, Doug. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Hallelujah. Okay, moving on to the next slide. We also want to acknowledge the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority staff that are present tonight. We have, of course, our Executive Director, Mr. John DeFries, Kona Roots as well, Mr. Bill Storma, Mr. Loy, Unibasami, here in the back, and Pua'ena An, who is not with us this evening, but provides plenty of support. We also have a number of couple or advisors. This is a huge list. This is a huge list to stand up a new authority and to transition the activities and the actions that are currently being managed for the current entity to this new authority. So joining us as well is we have Chris Daggett, who's part of our advisory and support team. We have a few folks that have joined from Hilo. We have Lala and Heather in the back. Anyone else? I think that's all. Some additional couple and support. And of course, all of you. Moving on, please. Okay, so now we're going to have about the next 10 minutes or so providing some overall context. 10 to 12 minutes overall context.
Aloha. So I'm Rich Matsuda. I am the astronomy representative on the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority. I also serve as a second vice chair. Normally you would have Dr. Noi Noi Wong Wilson doing this part, so I'm filling in for Noi Noi. And my purpose here is to share with you how the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority got formed. So if we could go to our next slide. Auntie, you spoke about the gathering on Mauna Kea back in 2019, 2020. Following that, in 2021, the Speaker of the House, Scott Saiki, sponsored a resolution in the House of Representatives in the state legislature to form a Mauna Kea working group to look at rethinking about how governance on Mauna Kea, management of the lands of Mauna Kea is performed. And so that working group was formed. There was, hold on, I have some notes here. There were 15 members. So the speaker designated a chairperson. There were 3 members of the House, and then 7 members of the Native Hawaiian community nominated by the community and then chosen by the speaker to serve on this working group. And then there were representatives from Office of Hawaiian Affairs, the BLNR, the Hawaii Board of Regents, and the Mauna Kea Observatories. I served in that role. Chancellor Irwin served in that role as well for the University of Hawaii. And then 2 members of the Native Hawaiian community were part of that 7, now sit on the authority. So that is Auntie Noi Noi, Wong Wilson, and Lanakila Manguel. So this working group worked for about 6 months to examine how we might better steward Mauna Kea and manage the resources up there. And we published a report called He Laho Kia Mauna Awa, a new day on Mauna Awa, that came out in January of 2022. And that became a bill, a House Bill 2024, that went into the legislature and eventually became, got passed, signed by the governor, and became an Act 255 that became law. In May of 2023, members that were just introduced were confirmed by the Senate to serve on this new authority. And those were introduced earlier, and we were given a 5-year transition. I think you can move to the next one. A 5-year time frame to transition from the current form of governance and management to the point where the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority would have Kuleana for stewarding and governing Mauna Kea. Do you want to check it? Okay.
You can just kind of.
Yeah, so one of the things that is unique about what the working group came up with and got passed into the law was that the foundation of the authority is really based upon Hawaiian values. And those are on the slide just before, but we want to show you a video. So in that working group, we're very fortunate to have.
First of all, I'm not Auntie, I am Lama Pu.
I'm sorry.
Her Royal Highness, Kailua Manaula Okulani Ki Eki Eloa Kiani Kena na Maupalaulani. You are going a little bit too further into what you are going to speak about. You should be here to hear the people. I would like to speak. I do not want to listen to your program here. I want to tell you what I have to say. I want to do my ori. I would like to begin properly, not that it hasn't been attempted with your aloha.
Please do share your ori, and then, if it's okay, Auntie Pua, who sat on the legislative working group, wanted to make sure that she offered the perspectives that really help to structure the legislative working group, and a lot of that is in this draft framework. So please share your ori if this is a appropriate time.
I'm so sorry, Mahina, you said it's in the what, the report?
This draft framework over here that's been. So basically, everything that's written on here is expressed directly from Auntie Pua, because she couldn't come to all of our meetings. So she wanted to make sure that she made a video so that community members could hear her thinking, the logic, the ancestral intelligence behind it, and then you folks talk.
I know her so well.
Hikino.
This tells what she's going to say. So why don't you open your time with the people? You're going to have this. You have a film. You don't have me every day. I need to speak.
Totally. But we also need to acknowledge the kupuna that have shared as well.
It's here, and people on your committee are not even here. What does that say? They're not here for this important meeting with the people. I'm already gathering information I need to know. Is this representation from your group who cares so much for the Mauna? When you speak about the governor and the legislature getting you started, let us tell you what we've been doing with the legislature. Let you respect the people. Those people who have come tonight need to be heard and welcomed. This is a planned presentation, which is well and fine. But hear the people first.
Kalame, we don't need to disrespect, but we do need to make sure that some of this kupuna,
You have it here. And I need to speak.
You will. So we're just gonna get to this.
You told me that.
We're gonna just get to
minutes
this.
ago, you told me.
It's not 20 minutes ago.
How many more minutes?
Probably, this is about 5 to 7, and then we have a couple minutes after that.
Because it's you, but you know.
Kalame. Okay, let's hope we do. Video, please work.
About Kona, because it's not something you hear about all the time, but it's something that existed for a long time, and it's something that continues to exist, because it has to do with this land that we live on, and what we as Hawaiians anyway, should know about this land that we live on. That's what the Kanawai is all about. Kanawai is, first and foremost, is called a law, but it's like a code or a decree or a regulation. Any one of those will identify the idea of Kanawai. And the first Kanawai that we're going to talk about is a Kanawai called Okiki Kanawai. Okiki Kanawai. Then Okiki Kanawai is the law of continuum. And so this is about Kanakas trying to educate Kanakas about what's happening on their land and how they can make their land exist for many generations. So this Kanawai has to do with the law of continuum. And Okiki Kanawai is, the idea of Okiki is to let things flow. And if you look around you, what are the things that flows? And one of the things that flow on our land is water. And we focus on water a lot because water is one of our main sources of life for life. And so the idea of Okiki Kanawai is the idea of allowing or being aware of where water flows. And the other thing that flows is magma. And the great thing about magma and lava is once it comes up, whoosh, 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 and then it flows, it comes up out of the ground, and then it flows down to the ocean, but it doesn't, it gives us land. And we look at it sometimes as being destructive. It is not destructive. It does what it has to do in order for us to have land. And so, what the Okiki Kanawai is stay out of its way. Okay, allow it to flow. And then the idea of water that flows, Mauna Kea, the Aupua of Kaohe, runs from Hamakua, it's a small outflow, runs from Hamakua to the top of Mauna Kea and over to Mauna Loa. Kaohe is bamboo. And the idea of the bamboo and why it's called bamboo, it has to do with water. And between the two mountains catches the most water. And catches the most water, this water will go into the earth, go into a bamboo idea of water basins. And then the water will leak out from it very slowly. And so you have all of these water basins between the two mountains. And that's why we have really big rivers in the Hamakua district, because of all the water that flows down freely. So the consciousness of what flows, where it flows, why we should be conscious of it flows, because it gives us life, and because it gives us a place to live. And water is what we need for life. And a lot of the water has to do with the two mountains that we live on.
There's a monster on the table.
That's the idea of the continuum. The other Kanawai is Kua'a Kanawai. Kua'a is the burning back, the law of the burning back. Now, the law of the burning back has to do with the gestating of landscape, basically, gestating of landscape. You know, they initially looked at it as, or compared it to an ali'i, very, very high rank. You don't approach the ali'i of very high rank because he is out of reach of everybody. It's the same thing with these land areas, the landscape that we need to hold sacred, or we need to hold like that they're going to do a lot of good for us, because these are the land areas that are necessary for our existence. One is, of course, the volcano, and is one of it. The other is places that have marshes and streams and rivers and coral heads and the idea of wet forest, because all of these things help to reproduce what's in there on the land. Coral head that spits out into the ocean, and a lot of fish go for it. Okay. And the wet forest is what gives life to more forests. And the streams do the same thing. And so this is the idea of the law of the burning back. So you look for these places and you be sure that you allow these places to maintain itself as it is. The other kanawai is Kaiokia Kanawai. Kaiokia Kanawai is the law of natural boundaries. Now this is a law that we as Kanakas need to be aware of. Okay, the law of natural bodies is the law where all of these things that I just talked about, the volcano, the movement of water, and all of that, where they are moving. And what it's saying is that you have to recognize the boundary. So this is saying, know the boundaries. Know your boundary as a Kanaka and know the boundaries of the land. So Kanawai is all about the environment, all about the land, and what the land is doing, and where the land is, and how the land provides for us. And therefore, our idea of being conscious of it and staying away from places that is not good for us. Okay, the last Kanawai is Kihoihoi Kanawai. And Kihoihoi Kanawai is the law of regeneration. And so the law of regeneration is that it's like the first law is the law of continuum. We need to continue our own generation of Kanakas. And we need to see that the generation of the native trees continue. We need to see that the generations of the native birds continue. Or the generations of the insects that live in these areas continue because they are the food for the birds. And so we have to be conscious of all of that as natives on the island. And again, these are the 4 laws of the land. And the law of regeneration is that we go out and there is a sense of reciprocation. And the sense of reciprocation is, if you go back to the Kumuripo in the first 2 lines, I was going to say this in the first Kanawai that I did, but with this particular line, the first 2 lines of the Kumuripo, Keawi Kawi Vela Kahonua. And when you talk about that, people say, oh, that's when our earth is hot. No, it's talking about the lava. When the lava is hot, it makes our earth hot. And what that does when our earth gets hot like that, and a lot of steam is coming up, it clouds the sky. It hides the sun. So what it's doing is it's returning water to the space above and turning it into clouds. And eventually, what that does is that cloud system will return the water back to us. So the whole idea of Kihoihoi Kanawai is the idea of reciprocation. That we give and the land gives back. And so be conscious of the fact that the land does give back.
Okay, mahalo. So we hear the recommendations to hurry up, move forward so that you folks can have a conversation. So Uncle Johannes will guarantee that he'll be no longer than a minute. 90 seconds at the most.
Absolutely. I think our point at this point is just as we launch you to let you know where the conversation fits. This is not the first conversation we've had. We may be a new state authority, but this is not the first conversation that's been had about the Mama. That's why it was important to share that material to say, this is what we gathered and what went into the legislation that created us, and we tried to capture here. The words of the language of that came from the community were captured in legislation, and we tried to capture it here as sort of a navigational star for us. And that's what we want to hear you talk about tonight and get your feedback on. There's going to be more conversations. It's not the last time you're going to see us in this community or other communities across the Payaina. The next part will be to discuss, and if we have the slide, yeah, there it is, a management framework. So if that's the start, if that's where we want to get to, how do we manage a storm? How do we manage education? How do we manage commercial use? How do we manage natural resources? How do we manage cultural resources? How do we manage educational opportunity in a way that aligns with the framework? So tonight we talk about the framework, and there's probably going to be a lot of questions about, so what does that mean for something? How are you going to implement that? Hold those thoughts. Don't lose them, hold them. We'll be back when our consulting team has had more chance to, opportunity to gather information to have those discussions with the community. Because as we said from the very outset, our intention is to not be secretive, but to be transparent about this. That's where trust is going to be built. Transparency and consistency, and to really to honor the opinions. So our commitment to continue to show that Tikua is we wanted to honor what has come before, but now is your time to build upon that. Mahalo.
So one thing that we learned from our previous conversations, first in Waimea and then in Ka'u, they told us what you did not make clear, so I'm attempting to make it clear here. There was a confusion that this is a consultation process. This is not a Section 106 consultation process. This is not an official consultation process. This is not even collecting the input for the actual plan. What this is just is a first conversation.
I've talked to Bill Storma about this program, and you are collecting every bit of information you can here. That's why it's important. I don't want a photo backing a plan that you've not heard from the people, the very people that caused you to form. It's backward. You need to hear from the people.
So let's go.
And 5 minutes is well over.
Yeah.
My turn.
You're right.
Now.
I went into, so here's the next set of questions. So we have three groups.
Now.
We have 3 groups for which we're gonna have conversation.
First, I will start, because I have brought this forward. You must. You must.
Chair Komeiji.
Part of what we're trying to do is trying to build an opportunity for everyone to speak. I know you have important things to say,
Yes, I do.
but everybody else also has important things.
Well,
So
you
what
need to
I
hear
would
from
ask
us
you,
first
what
before
I
we
would
hear
ask
from
you to do is to give the respect that I'm trying to give to you, if you give the respect to others.
You have not given respect to us. You have not
You
invited
are
us to
speaking
speak.
for yourself, but exactly what we're trying to do right now, and you're actually hindering our ability to get everybody's opinion. Because what we're trying to do now is we're gonna have a group activity where everybody can share their
But I'd
opinions.
like to have you hear why I'm here tonight.
We're
We
going
need
to hear.
that.
We're going
And the time is passing. 2 hours goes very fast.
But you're
Please,
thinking
sir,
that, yeah.
Please let me.
No, but
I would
we
appreciate
have
it. John, I would appreciate this. I had come here for a very good reason. And I think you need to listen.
You know, tonight's format is meant to be a collaboration between everyone here, not one dominant speaker.
You need to hear first from
I'd be happy to meet
and the
with
people
you.
need to hear of events from Kona in the Mauna, just like you've heard from Auntie Hua. You need to hear from me, John, and everyone here. This is very historic and very important.
this is the first step of many conversations that we're having.
Yes, and my name is Lamafu. Mikahala Roy is my name. I am the Kahuna Nui of Ahu'ena Heiau. You need to listen to this as you listen to at least Huakanele. This has pertinence, and the people need to hear this, and they need to hear from me tonight. Beginning this, before we get started.
I would ask you to share your ideas with others.
Right here. John, we must, it's in front of the whole group, not just one little small group.
I think what we need to understand is that the authority which was
You
created,
have no authority. There is one word.
Wait.
Authority belongs to one person, and that is Akua. Mana law. I have my testimony ready to read to you. Why are you not allowing the people to speak?
We have given.
Because we have the greater interest of this room to
You have
serve at this
you have
time.
another request before you, sir.
Please come to our meeting at our next.
No, I'm here and I am going to speak. Yeah, yes
Anyway.
I am. Very pertinent and almost, that her hearing Antipua tonight is almost as important as hearing me. And I will not stop until you hear me.
Please
I am
allow us to
asked
move
to do
forward.
this by Akua Manamanalo. And who is Lamaku? Lamaku means standing torch. And from the very beginning of time, these are the individuals chosen by Most High God to represent them. I am the first Lamaku of the modern era at Ahu'ena Heiau, the first restored temple in the Hawaiian Islands and in the world. In 2010, it was the 200th anniversary of the unification of these islands by Kamehameha the Great. Kamehameha the Great was the unifier of the kingdom, Kanai'opuni, and this was his personal temple. My father led the restoration by the people of this first temple. In 2010, we began to hear from the ancestors. This is the story of Joan of Arc. This is so very important that I have written to the legislature. By rights, all committee members, and I do call you committee members, not authority members, because there's only one authority, and that's Most High God, and I represent him. So you will hear me, because this is what he says to do. Going on, Most High God created the world, and he created it from here. This is Kailua Kalani, the second heaven, long before we were called Hawaii. I am the first Lamaku of the modern era, and Ahu'ena Heiau is the first temple restored in all of the world. It is the first temple built upon the earth by mankind who was searching for God. How do we know that? By our ancestors and by the stream of spirit, heavenly spirit, that's come from there. John DeFries knows very well. We go back many years where we have worked with history and talking about the importance of such things, but that was nothing compared to what needs to be reported to the people. By rights, all committee members should have received what I am giving you in my testimony, but you didn't. Is it a case of censorship that the Hawaii legislature in 2021 did not get this to you? Or is it a blatant obstruction of justice? I believe it is the latter. You did not receive it. You all now are working with the topic of Mauna Wakea after the governor had no clue about what to do when the people, as far as I'm concerned, 2 hours is just what's needed to find out how to get invited into everyone's parlors so that you can begin to hear them, not to hear you. You don't care enough. Not even all of your committee members are here. You need to hear from this important report.
Nicole, are you asserting that you are the sole source on the topic of Mauna Kea?
I am telling you that I am the lone source for this news that you're hearing.
Then I think before we go further, can I see a show of hands of how many of you want to
I do not want to ask that, John. You need to be honoring me.
How many of you want to continue down this track? I think the people have spoken. We need to get
On
back.
earth and in heaven there is but one authority, source, Akua Mana Mana Loa. Therefore your group is a committee of men and women created by the state of Hawaii, deemed by America the 50th state. The United States of America occupies Hawaii. I know many citizens who have protested development on Mauna Wakea. I have not met all of you. The materials delivered to you should have been delivered as you began your committee. The Hawaii State Legislature received these documents from me on March 3rd, 2021. I know what was the reason, I'm repeating this. How do we embark on this meeting? Prior to the movement of the first capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii to Maui, then to Oahu. The kingdom of Hawaii was founded at Ahu'enaheau at Kamakohanu by Kamehameha. Ahu'enaheau is the temple built by the loving and righteous hands of our Oiwi ancestors. Ahu'enaheau is a representation of the true temple in life. Mauna Wakea, Ku Ha'oi Kamalie. God's single and holy mountain upon the earth, clear and respected by all. Ahu'enaheau is the representation of this true temple in life. 2 years ago, this information was shared with KHON2 News. This was decided to be censored, not included with the news that you get. This is what is true in Hawaii. The news never leaves our shores, the true news. And you need to hear this. I am equipped by Akua Manamanaloa to recite to you the Oiwi and Hawaii's Mo'olelo of life from Kailua o Kalani, the second heaven. The identity Hawaii was first named by Akua Manamanaloa. Thanks to the restoration of Ahu'enaheau 50 years ago this year, this Mo'olelo of life flows from our connection of antiquity with Akua by our Oiwi ancestors at Kamakohonu. Thanks to this restoration 50 years ago, and how is this known? By the beautiful sacred stream of knowledge and wisdom and of spirit from Most High God. Ahu'enaheau is the temple built by the loving and righteous hands, as I told you. Mauna Wakea is to remain Ku Ha'oi Kamalie. Akua's mountain, profusely respected, profoundly revered. Mauna Wakea's summit peak, Ku Kahau'ula, is to remain unobstructed and profusely and profoundly revered as God's summit on earth. On 2015, May 10th, Mother's Day, a visit from the Io came to earth with a message that of the new ruler for Hawaii. This was delivered by the Io and by my relative John. All of this was documented and sent to the legislature. Why haven't you heard it? Why haven't you seen it? All of you, any of you. If you're first to speak about the governor and the premise and beginning of this work, then bring it all out. Why haven't you spoken about this?
Maybe it's top secret.
I'm not going to be entertaining you right now, because you should know better. Yes, and you need to hear this, trust me. So I'm going to continue. I am Lamaku Mikahala Roy from Kona, and this is the letter that I read to the people on the Mauna that when 31 people were arrested. I am grateful for all gatherings. The ancestors of Oiwi are active and worldwide. On Mother's Day, 5/10/2015, a woman received a telepathic message from the Io.
So she's agreed to read just the final letter, and then we're gonna take a 1-minute break, and then we're gonna get to
Words,
her.
features, colors, and markings, and was told where to look for him. Driving along the highway, she soon did come upon the one who had called her. He had passed on. This is the call that came to me, and this is the conveyance that came to me. Bear in mind, as I speak to you, it is like understanding a message from what happens, or what did happen in a very historic instance of the great Joan of Arc, because this is what has happened. Since 2010, I have begun, and I have volumes of what has come. You need to hear this, and the legislature needs to hear this. Pua will accept this. She is a great teacher, and so is this information great and important for all universities and everyone to hear. This is from Akua. Winds of love swirl surrounding Mauna Kea upon the earth.
We have much love for Halemakua, Anake. We're going to take a 1-minute break. I would like to formally request that we receive this document and add it to comments that have been provided, and we'll put it onto the legislative.
You know, I will
website.
not be quiet.
So,
I will not
we'll
be
take
quiet, and
2
you
minutes.
should be ashamed of yourself.
to then inform the authority of next steps. And they're gonna refine this. Okay, it's yours. I'm gonna just check on this one.
Has everyone been able to look this over? In a few minutes? Good. Or is there folks that have curiosities, initial reactions or responses? This first question is, what is not understandable and why? What is missing? So those are the first two questions in response to this
So I was yet to speak about what's not the bounty, vision, everything that you presented today.
Yeah, we're 100 pace.
Was explanation which was beautiful around Kanaka's knowing what did she say where the boundaries for fun, where the boundaries are for the
That's hindi Kapupua then was under the kingdom. Here is a photo of myself with my Iolani Luahine. Here in Kona at Hulihe Palace. Naluahine Kapupua. Patriarch to many families in Hawaii. He is a Konohiki. And what is the definition of a Konohiki? Everything that Puakanele talked about is no longer the Konohiki. And at this time, Ahuenahiau is the only Heiau that will teach everyone how to hear from Most High God and to establish new kahu for the care of the land. They already expressed what I've told the state. For example, the DLNR, no plan for Polo is correct by God. That's why I say, John, there's only one definition of authority. It belongs to Most High God only. Therefore, you are, ladies and gentlemen, on a committee. You are not an authority. And the last time I saw Mr. Ige, he had car trouble on the Mauna. He was trying to quickly come to grips with what was happening by the people. And he got stuck. That's my memory of him. And he's the man that began this discussion. But what you've not heard is what I'm telling you tonight.
So it's not the actual.
So I'm it's very important that you do.
We want to know.
Because it's
Guys, down in the
for
ocean.
everybody to have the rights that the Native Hawaiians have. Yeah, just rights to humanity. And then from them, like using any kind of spirituality that they subscribe to justify whatever they want to do.
Okay.
Many opportunities, but there are quite a lot of.
And a lot of it is part of we're part of America. Where you wouldn't go, I mean, I suppose I wouldn't, you know, people that go to New Zealand
Some more.
Mahalo nui.
I don't know. Sorry, I will see. Sorry, because we had a but
So just want to thank everyone, all the community members for adjusting with us. A strong community, resilient community. It makes for a compassionate community when we can try and find ways to hear all the voices. So I really appreciate everyone adjusting. And so this time is Q&A. So we've asked our authority members and staff, Executive Director John DeFries, to join us. And this is just general Q&A. Do you want to say anything first before we start?
Yes. Help! No.
Definitely.
You know, in all seriousness, painful what happened tonight for me on many levels, personal most of all. My maternal grandmother, who was born in Kailua, raised in Kailua, actually breastfed at birth and during his infancy her father, Roy, who was a profound historian. And under a collaboration with artist historian Herb Kona, the two of them led the restoration of Ahuena. So I have tremendous respect for that work. I was also the best man in her wedding. And that did not work out. And the best man got hit with some shrapnel over the years from that. But, you know, I've always cared about that family in particular. I mean, it's a prominent family in Kona. And so tonight, I wasn't completely surprised, but I was concerned for all of you too. And I appreciate you making the adjustment and allowing the evening to go forward. One of the characteristics about the Mauna Kea Authority is of the 12 board members, 8 are in that circle, there are also people who feel that astronomy must move forward And you have some that believe that part of that is the next generation, including TMT. Essentially, what I'm saying is I report to a body that it doesn't pay for me to enter that circle with my own agenda. My work is moving in and out of those spaces because from my perspective, each one is a tribal leader. And I know enough about the tribe behind them. And they are accountable to that tribe. And so our task is to find where that middle ground is that we can share in common. That document you're holding on to right now was a byproduct of a board process, okay? I want you to envision that document you're looking at in draft form. Envision 12 hands on the same pen. And somehow, through a facilitated process, we got to this draft. And then it was decided that we would go out around this island in a series of community meetings to introduce it, introduce the draft, and invite you into a process that makes it better, okay? So we were in Naalehu last week. We were in Waimea pre-summer. We'll be in Laupahoehoe next week, and then Hilo, okay? At the conclusion of that series, we will have taken your input, which we're collecting along the way. What we sense is happening is that there's about 4 or 5 common themes that are beginning to reveal themselves. And we'll find a way to organize it, present it to our board, so that the board can take this document to final form, okay? What's important about that, and it'll probably be the 4th quarter of this year. What's important about that is that we have just retained, after a competition, a planning firm to develop a new management plan / master plan, which Act 255, the law, requires us to do, okay? And it's going to become public. That firm is known well, SSFM, no stranger in Hawaii, an international firm. But the RFP that we issued, as you would imagine, had a strong emphasis on community engagement and Hawaiian cultural practices, for obvious reasons, right? In addition to that, we are committed through the Act to advocating and supporting astronomy. So the first thing we gotta let people know is this is not the Stop Astronomy Authority, okay? We actually need to find a way to make this all kind of work. And the more I talk about it, the more impossible it sounds, right? But I'm confident that collectively we can get there. And we're fortunate to have the board that we have, and you know, we're working diligently on it. And so again, I'm really grateful. I should say that between now and June 30, 2028, we are in the middle of what was a 5-year transition period. So the University of Hawaii is currently the manager of those Mauna Kea lands. And during this transition period, we have entered a joint management formation that allows the authority staff, the Center for Mauna Kea Stewardship, which is the University of Hawaii, to co-manage the mountain. And I want to introduce Dr. Greg Chun, standing against that other pillar. Greg is the Executive Director for the Center for Mauna Kea Stewardship. So Greg and I and our senior staff are meeting frequently and dealing with issues so that we can become operationally fluid and get the work done that we need done as we move toward the full transition date, which is July 1, 2028. And we've got a lot of work to do, and tonight you contributed to advancing the work. So I'll stop there and we can open up for questions.
You want to sit down?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to ask is because we want to make sure we have people online that are also viewing and in their comments. So you can either stand up or say just with a loud voice. And if Dusty will let me know if I should repeat it to the authority members so that they can respond, but also the people online can also hear the questions and the responses. Did you want to go first? And I'm going to just ask you a little bit, sorry, can we please, because we started late, we'll go up to 7:10 if that's okay with authority members. Maybe not, we'll give, just say your question, and then we'll give up to a minute authority members for your response. Let's keep it punchy and crispy.
Just one more thing, and as authority members, guys like me coming from off island, we said we're committed to stay here as long as people need to talk. So if you don't get it, we're gonna let people go at 7:10, but we'll still be here to talk.
Where's a pot of stew? Did you want to go first, Auntie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, because I've been listening to you guys, and it's like, I think that it's really important that there is that principle of no compromise needs to be adhered to, and that means of indigenous practices. So, when you said that, how you're looking at astronomy and the opening of TMT again and all that stuff, it's like there's ways that tangible and intangible, and that if they're hurting the environment, we're just going to end up right back up there on that mountain again, because no compromise is something I do on a worldwide, in my own practices as a cultural practitioner. I've helped 1,500 babies, and I don't compromise. I don't use machines, and I don't use drugs. So I would say the same thing about the TMT, that needs to be a no compromise, because we've already gone through it. So that's my 2 cents.
So Auntie, is there a request of the authority to explore this concept that you put forward of no compromise?
Have no compromise, yes, because that is indigenous practices. It's like the Queen. She didn't sign a treaty, and she didn't go to war.
Thank you. I'm just checking that our note takers are also assisting me. I believe. Mahalo.
Yep,
Okay.
Yep.
So, any comment or comment received? Okay. Here, question or comment. Hikino.
Okay.
Hikino.
My question is around going around the island, Alehu, Kona, Lapoheoe, Hilo. And just even looking around here, like I do not know that we've captured everyone's manao, and you're not going to capture everyone's, but it seems a little limited. Maybe we can have a space where those that cannot come, those that cannot make it, whether it's online communication, but some other form communicated to everyone. That way we don't feel like we never had our voice heard.
Chris, there is none of you should leave here tonight without having the website that, the address that you can leave your mana'o with. So we'll make sure that you have that, because that is a very good point, and we encounter that in every stop we make, right? People have a lot of priorities in their lives, and it's difficult to carve it out on the nights that we happen to be there. So that's a really good point.
Mahalo. So if you didn't register, you didn't sign up, sign in your email, please do so. So you get the.
Is that inside there?
No. Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. One thing we have to consider is we're on a clock. We're on a 5-year clock. So we have to get to a point where this agency is prepared to work. But the mountain is there forever. And however it is managed is gonna be here for a long time. So we gotta get to where we're upright in the 5 years, but that won't be the last dialogue. And so I think we're gonna try and compress what we can to be as representative as possible in the time that we have, but we don't wanna fail in getting to the finish line, because that'll create chaos. So we gotta get to a finish line even if it's imperfect. And then just commit ourselves in the longer to continuous improvement.
I was seeing it to mitigate having those type of feelings and wanderings, you know. So I totally understand. It's a long process.
It's a balancing that.
Right. And there's gonna be dialogue. There's gonna be communication. But if something comes out and someone feels like, oh, I didn't get a chance. Oh, how come I never had a chance? Oh, we went around island.
That you will get a chance to understand that you will need to hear what was discussed here, because history is made tonight.
Any questions on this side? Oh, there was a question online. Can you
No,
read
no.
it?
We're
going
gonna
to
share
the
email.
Okay.
The email address is mksoa.community@hawaii.gov. Again, mksoa.community@hawaii.gov.
Mahalo. We have a question over here. This side.
Aloha.
Aloha.
My question is, because you guys going around the island, there's a lot of unbalance I see. Looking on this web thing. The question is, if there's unbalance, do you guys go back around and do this meeting again? Because you guys have a time frame to meet, right? So the question is, would you guys go back around if it weighs heavy and not putting anything up there?
The answer to that is the question of this specific circuit series that we're on is to seek your help in helping us finalize this document, okay? Because this document becomes foundational to the work of the planning firm that we're bringing on, right? The planning process is going to cause a whole nother series of meetings to go back around, not only the island, but the state too, with an emphasis on this island for obvious reasons.
Can I clarify also, Auntie Cindy, is your question around how will these processes ensure that there is it equal? Equal participation from all of the moku? Is that the?
Yes, not only here in the state of Hawaii, we have a lot of Kanakas out in the mainland. So that's where my issue is a lot of them want to come home. How can you get that information out there? So they can come here on Zoom or whatever.
Mahalo. Good question and comment and suggestion. Yes. Mahalo. Anyone else from this corner? I know that we have a question from our online viewers, but I'm just checking. This corner. Question, comment? Okay, let's hear the question from our online viewer. You might want to come over here and state the question in front of the camera.
Yes. Well, I'll just read this question that we have online. Is the draft getting input or doing this community talk story with our youth in the school systems? Youth Voices Honolulu.
You want to
repeat that?
Yes. Is the draft getting input or doing this kind of community talk story with our youth in the school systems? So I think they're asking if
youth will be involved.
Yeah, youth will be involved.
So I guess the current set of meetings that we have had have been open to the whole community and not specifically in the schools as locations, but I think it's really important because if you look at what the law says and the purpose of the authority, is to protect Mauna Kea for future generations. So I think it's really important to have young voices as input into what we're doing, because they're going to be the recipients of our work. And if we do a good job, then we're serving them. If we do a bad job, that's not good for them. So I think that's really good input, good suggestion. So thank you very much.
Any other comments from authority members, particularly?
I'm not sure how we're going to address that, but man, is it important.
It's really important.
I think it's really a vital point, and we got to think, youth, not many youth are going to come to 5 to 7 meetings, and so how do we go work with schools, or work with certain programs? I think we can contemplate that and figure out how to do it.
Actually, board chair has talked about convening, the idea of convening a youth conference around this, right? That would specifically focus on that, right? In addition to, I got screaming nephews and nieces that all have an opinion about this, so I get my weekly dosage too.
Mahalo. I'm going to turn to this side of the room, and Mahia, let's go ahead and encourage our online viewers if they have additional questions, because we're going to start to wind down this conversation. Yes, please, Chair.
Just to follow up for that, our county, I think, is one of the few counties that has a youth commission with members from each council district, as well as at-large appointments by the mayor. They meet monthly, and that might be something that we can put on their agenda to cover different sections of this document. We do. We're happy to connect you with them.
Wasn't that long ago that you were that age?
You still look like age.
Any other comments or questions from this side? Suggestions? Comments, questions?
I just have thoughts.
Anakala, please.
So, in reflecting on what took place on the Mauna with the protests and access to the Mauna and things like that, it's my feeling that there are some historical events that have not been taken care of, that should be considered but have been avoided, and the lack of dealing with those situations was really the cause of why that situation took place. Okay, so being a little bit of a history buff myself, and studying the documentation and history of Hawaii, right, and the landing of military troops in the islands, the treaty that was entered into by the Queen at that point, right, to suspend all hostility so that there be no loss of life. What is this body, what is their view about considering the history, and particularly the treaty, which is supreme law of the land? What is your view with regard to that fact? Because it would have an overarching effect over every decision made throughout the entire state, because it's supreme law of the land.
John, you want to start?
I'm trying to remember the words, but we're supposed to come up with an aspirational statement that includes addressing some of those issues.
Okay.
Under the statute actually requires us to come up with an aspirational statement. And what is exactly
restorative justice?
Restorative justice.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I mean, that is the main topic, right?
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with a series of injustices that have taken place for 130 years.
Yeah.
And as long as those, I'm sorry. As long as they're not dealt with, the same situation will resurface again.
Right. So we're supposed to come up with an aspirational statement. I would also ask people to consider the fact that of the 11 members, 8 of the members are Native Hawaiian. Okay. Now they may have a broad cross-section of views and they may not all agree, but in terms of restorative justice, in terms of having Native Hawaiians having the majority of members, that was by design. So we're not addressing the bigger issue, but at least as to this authority, it was created so that the majority of
I mean, and that's wonderful, and then there will be a struggle because there are various opinions about what took place in the history, but the bottom line is, if we look carefully at history and what the law requires, right? Bottom line is we need to surround the solution that the law has established. That's what we need to look at, not the various opinions or ideas that we might have as individuals, but what has the law established that should have been taking place back in 1893 that today has still not been considered. And I think if we want to do well for everyone, and I'm talking about the world at large, right, is to do justice, which was called for back in 1893. And when I think, so I'm not just speaking just for the Hawaiians, I'm speaking for Americans as well. Because the will of the Queen was to protect all life. That suspension of hostility that she entered both countries into was to preserve life across the board. And that being the case, and that being the supreme law of the land as treaty, we all have a part at participating at restoring the peace that once existed in these islands. And I think that's the ultimate goal. And that's what we hear. If Michael Puna pushed me every day to speak on behalf of everyone, not just the Kanaka. It's unfortunate that many of our Kanaka today don't understand what's going on. You know, we've been fed various forms of information, and so we become confused, and so we don't know where to take a stand. But I think a body, any kind of lawful body, right, the responsibility is first to make sure that the public is well informed. And I think that has everything to do with that First Amendment right, which says freedom of speech and of the press. But the freedom of speech comes only from speaking what is true. You cannot speak a lie and expect freedom. You cannot print a lie and expect freedom. So we all have this responsibility. The freedom of speech and of the press can only come about if we speak what is true. And for the last 130 years, we've missed the boat. And so we have confusion, we have division, we have conflict, we have world wars. So we have a unique opportunity to reestablish the balance, right, so that we can all experience the peace that was intended by Kiako. So thank you.
Appreciate that, and thank you for your help tonight.
Thank you.
Really
I mean,
that.
I always want to be involved. If I can be involved more deeply, you know, with this conversation, my effort, which Mike Kupuna put me on that journey, is to bring clarity. So I hope we can work together continually. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Thank you.
Mahalo Leanakala. We have time for maybe 2 more questions, and then we're out closing comments. Yes, you know, Wendy.
I wanted to just mahalo all of you. You know, you're doing something really special. The board serves as volunteers, and I've been part of all of this from being, you know, to understanding what the working group was doing, testifying during that time. The law got formed, you know, watching how all of this in the last 2.5 years has come about, and watching each of you tirelessly show up, contribute, and serve. And I think it's something that we really need to recognize, and it's what I'm doing right now. So thank you. Thank you for your service.
I'm going to scan the room. Any final question or comment?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got here late. Sorry. Yeah. Resident here in Kona, Teresa. The rules and regulations that we hope to put together as a group, will it include the uses of sports activity that people may want to do up in the mountain? So that would be something to take into consideration, because in the past we've had world experts trying to ski the area or surfboard the fine gravel, and nothing was done for their activities. So I'm hoping that we can come together and put stricter rules of the use of the mauna, no matter what the purpose is that they might want to do up in the mauna.
Mahalo for your question. Who would like to respond?
You know, the authority has has been tasked and has the opportunity to actually begin to imagine and focus completely on the Mauna. Take the humans off for a second. What is in the best interest of the Mauna? What is best for the health of the Mauna, right? And once we stay focused on that, then we can start to look at how human activity enters that space, right? Whether it is astronomy, whether there should be a future of tour cars, rent-a-cars or not, right? So we have the opportunity now to really establish a very high standard of conduct. And then as human activity is defined, we have the ability to set the protocols, the practices, what is expected of you, and do that uniformly, right? At the same time, protecting the entry rights of cultural practitioners who are diligent in their work, in performing their protocols as well. So this is a rare opportunity. You know, the board knows that this is a massive experiment that cannot fail. There are too many issues in Hawaii that need critical dialogue and chiefly decision making that care for everyone, okay? And this is like the first canoe out. This one doesn't get out, it could be difficult, okay? And so there's a lot riding on it. Many of us feel called into this work. Many of us need our head examined for coming into this work, but that's secondary. There's a bigger issue here regarding where we are today in Hawaii and where we need to be going forward. And frankly, we've got an opportunity through the authority to go pioneer that new frontier.
And may I also, if I may also just clarify what I heard as your question. So I do hear a bigger kuleana that's being, that this authority, this body is charged, as well as all of Hawaii, right? Residents of Hawaii. My question that I heard, though, that was not specifically answered, will this authority look into possible restrictions of sports activities? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Well, I fully uphold that.
Yes.
The mindset is not one of greed and money and ownership.
That's right.
Because if that's the case, then we all lose.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about tours in groups. I'm talking about the individual that has no respect. And that's what happened there.
Yeah.
Some skier went up there and didn't get fined and didn't get penalized. But if a Hawaiian went up there, they'd be fined and penalized. I mean, that has been the history repeating itself. Whenever a Kanaka wants to go up there, like we did to protect the Mauna, we were jailed, fined, penalized. But this outsider comes there and skis it, and nothing is done. So you see the discrepancy of where does Kanaka fit into the picture of respect of the Mauna, and that this body can really adhere to that. And don't do it for money, don't do it for greed or ownership of that Mauna. You know, we need to do it because it's there protecting us here. Hi. Mahalo.
I'm going to ask that we close our meeting with some final words, and then we'll do just a final circle together and adjourn with Olelo Hawaii. Kekahi manao Olelo Hawaii.
I've done enough speaking. You close. Oh.
I just want to say mahalo. You know, the people who don't, I don't know, there's certain people who don't like to go out to community, but I actually love it. I mean, you know, Frederick Douglass said you can't have rain without thunder and lightning. So sometimes, you know, it's not exactly as you plan. but the resource, the benefit that you get from it is, to me, is always worth it. And we've proven that tonight. We're gonna have many bites of this apple. You're gonna think about things when you go home tonight. I wish I said this, and don't feel like that opportunity is lost. Number one, we'll be back, or we will open our lines of communication to you. Just keep informing us so that this gets to be as good as it can be, and we give it our best shot. I was in this group over here, so there's some things they talked about communication and about putting together something that is living and not just a list, that is organic and is interdependent, where the parts are interdependent. Those are really great aspirations for us. We're going to try our best to rise to it. You know, John and I are kind of same age. He looks much younger, I'm sure. We weren't having these conversations when you and I graduated from high school. It's possible now because we rekindled interests and we revitalized knowledge in our culture and practice. We're able to approach this more intelligently today, or with that information in hand. And I think that enables us to have different outcomes. So I come with a lot of hope for our daunting challenge that when we come together. And I see proof of these things. John and I are also really close with Nainoa Thompson and Pauline's Avoiding Society. Nainoa called me the other day, says, she said, I think they were leaving Bora Bora and going to Rarotonga. He said, think about the massive space, geophysical space of the Pacific. Think about how many nations there, and we are all at peace. That's not happening anywhere else in the world. What causes that peace? Is when we come back to our core values of humanity and how we rest and sit with the land. That inspires better behavior. And I think that's what we like to find for the moment. And I bet it's going to be infectious in a good way, where it spreads to other things in our lives.
So, Wayne, let me ask Chancellor Irwin. Bonnie has been part of this for 6 years, part of the working group, got assigned to it, and she's a non-voting member because there's a Board of Region representative who is a voting member. But Bonnie, I'd welcome your Manalo.
As Neil was talking, I was thinking about the fact that when I was a classroom teacher, college professor, I only had one rule in my class, and that rule was respect. And that came up in our group also, that Neil was referring to. And for me, that means respect for the laws, the treaties, the things that Uncle Manu talks about. It means respect for everyone around the table and all the people that we try to represent and we try to speak with and for. And then in the end, our core value in this group is respect for the Mona itself, right? And so I try to enter all of these spaces with that as my strongest core value, because I think that is what brings us peace in the end, is respecting other people, other people's point of view, recognizing past traumas. All of that to me is encompassed in that one word. And so it is my sort of rule to live by.
Okay, I'm going to ask everyone to just join in a circle here. I think it will be more like an oval. And that's okay too. And what I'd like to ask is, we are going to close. If you're comfortable with holding hands or elbows or pinkies, however, footsie, whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to close tonight's gathering and conversation for this session, because this is an ongoing conversation. We are going to speak where you're the Aina, the land that feeds you. Whether you're coming from Kailua, Kona, you're coming from Waimea, you're coming from Hilo, we're just going to go in a circle and you're just going to say that particular name. And we're going to go right around. And what that is doing is Mauna Kea is going to hear all of the lands for which she feeds. and sustains. And because of that, we are affirming with this closing our collective kuleana to one another and to Hawaii. So we'll start here. Just go say your one place that is feeding you.
Holualo. Honau.
Kaloko.
Noa.
Uvawa.
Kapele.
Wapalua.
Pua and Hulu.
Mama Kia.
Hilo.
Duano.
Memki. Kalawa.
Waimea.
Waiakea uka.
Makaha.
Kia.
Lokumaka. Kalaala. Manukaha.
Waimea.
Haru. Wailala. Waimea.
O'oma. With that, let's say aloha 3 times together. Ready and aloha, aloha, aloha. All the way, take some pastries, take some coffee, make sure you sign your email. We got